Hi everyone, and welcome to our final January episode of Coach's Corner 2009. My name's Andy Bort, so glad to have you with us. And we're going to shift gears a little bit. We're going to start with the men's side of things for basketball. And joining me in the hot seat right now is men's coach Larry Ondeko. Coach, thanks for being here.
No problem.
Let's talk about the last game against St. Vincent. It was a bit of a test for the team. That's what we had last week. We were talking about how it would be a test coming down the stretch here in more of these important games. You had St. Vincent coming in at 14-3, and it looked like everything was falling for them. And does it ever get frustrating when a defense plays to its potential, but yet there are still some shots that just rain in for them?
A little bit, but not when you're playing a team as good as St. Vincent. They're just a very, very good basketball team. Have a lot of seniors. And when they play as well as they do on Saturday, it's going to be very tough to beat them. The good part was we did have our chance at the end. We were right in the game and played a very good basketball game ourselves. And I told the guys the next day it was kind of a shame that the score ended up what it was. If you looked at it in the paper, you would think, oh, it wasn't a very good game, but it was actually a very good basketball game. We were pretty excited with the way we played.
What was the strength of the team that allowed them to be able to keep in the game versus games past?
Well, I think a lot of it's just the experience of being in those types of games. Good senior leadership. David Richards has done a great job as our point guard. Bobby Glass and Ryan Murray have also done a great job out there as older players and veterans who've been in those situations. So I think obviously the more times you're in those situations, the better you're going to respond to them. And we've done a great job of that this year.
You mentioned maturity also on the defensive side. We saw Steve Bielek get some playing time, and unfortunately his knee seemed like it was starting to bother him at halftime, but that he was really doing well defensively for you guys, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's obviously a huge difference for us. And, he only played 8 minutes, and it's no real it's not a real coincidence that we played our best basketball when he was in there. That's when we got our lead in the first half. I think we got up 5. And, when he went out towards the end of the half, that's when they got it back to tied and then took a lead. And then we never got one back. So he's a huge part of what we do. And if he's healthy, we can be very good. And when he's not, we're still a good basketball team. But he's obviously a big factor in there.
And for those of you who didn't hear, the game is tonight against Grove City. It was supposed to be last night, but with all the weather conditions, it was supposed to be postponed, and it's going to be tonight at 8 for the men. Is Steve Bielek going to be okay for tonight's game, Coach?
Well, he's always okay going in, pretty much. It's just a matter of what happens in the course of the game. He was fine going into the St. Vincent game, landed wrong on a made three-pointer, and that just caused a little bit of a reaction, some swelling. So, going into the game, he's fine, and you just kind of keep your fingers crossed and hope for the best with him.
We were watching on the sideline during the game against St. Vincent. He did show some emotion when he had to come out of the game. And is that a good sign, Coach, when you realize that even though they're feeling pain, that they're still wanting to be in there and competing?
Oh, yeah. Well, Steven's been through, I don't know, I joke with him, it's been like 10 years. I think he's been through a long 3 years here with his knee, constantly rehabbing, getting surgery, and these little nicks and things like that. And it's obviously frustrating for him. And I'll tell you, I'm not sure there's a whole lot of kids that would keep coming back the way he has. But he loves the game, and he wants to be able to play. And, any minutes we can get on him are obviously a bonus.
And obviously, St. Vincent, you guys gave him a run for their money, obviously, with the effort of Bielek. Do you feel like in the second half it would have been a much tighter game, maybe even a victory, if Bielek could have been in there for the rest of the game?
Yeah, certainly we had our chance anyway. We were down 4 with about 4 minutes left and missed a few free throws. They hit a couple big shots and pulled away from us. But, yeah, I definitely think if Steven could have gotten, probably 20 minutes in the game, 18 to 20 minutes, I definitely feel like we would have had a better chance of winning. Doesn't mean we would have, but certainly would have given us a better chance of winning the basketball game.
Now, talking about times to win, Grove City, obviously a big game tonight. It's one of those rivalry games. What's the key tonight to being able to hold the score of this Grove City team down, which has seemed to be on a roll lately?
We just got to play the way we've been playing. We've been playing very good basketball this month. And if, we can focus on playing good defense and defending their stuff and being committed for 40 minutes of playing that way, I think we're going to have a good night.
Now, the last time against Grove City, it was an overtime game, and it was one of those where you came up on the short end. But do you feel that the offensive maturity now of this team is going to help them in this second game, which, the second game is one of those that you try to look on the first game and think to yourself, what could we have done better? Do you think that's going to be the key, is the offensive maturity?
Definitely. We were averaging, I think when we went into that game, we were averaging 63 points a game. That was Stevens' third or fourth game of the year. And we, quite frankly, weren't very good at that point in time. I think we've scored in the 80s every game in January so far, except for last Saturday when we scored 69, and could have gotten it up into the 80s had we done a few things correctly. So, yeah, we've certainly matured. We've certainly gotten a lot better, and I believe the second time through in all these conference games, we are a lot better than the first time we played these teams.
Now, Thomas More took a slight lead in the conference standings. They had a win over Teal last night. Is there any pressure into getting momentum for this game against Grove City before the long trip down to Kentucky?
Well, it'll certainly help. Everybody's close. Every game is very, very important. You don't want to get too far behind the pack, and you don't want someone to break out too far ahead of the pack. So, certainly not lost on us or Grove City. W&J and all these games are important. Doesn't matter who you're playing or where you're playing them. So, yeah, it's a big game for us tonight.
Do you find that the rivalry game atmosphere tends to bring out the best in a team, especially the Titans?
Well, I don't know about so much tonight in terms of rivalry. I mean, everybody's they're all so important. It's hard to put a little more emphasis on anything. I think until you start playing teams over the course of 5 or 6 years for championships and first place and things like that, that's where it truly becomes special. So, this is a huge game. Thomas More is a huge game Saturday, and W&J is a huge game next Wednesday. And we're not looking at them any one more differently than the other.
Now, talking about Grove City, what do you think from the first game is going to be some keys to maybe keeping them down in their scoring versus you guys being able to get down the floor?
Two things. One, we've got to defend them better. We weren't a very good defensive team at that point in time, and I think we'll defend them a lot better. And then, the other part's just simply our offense. Like I said, just pointed out a while ago, we're scoring a lot better, shooting the ball way, way better. And we're just, all in all, a better basketball team than we were back in December when we played them.
Now, obviously, when you guys go on the road, you're playing a lot more consistently when you're on the road, and that really seemed to spark in the big win against W&J earlier this season. We talked about it last week, too. W&J was picked to win it all in the pack this season. So with a game like that, how does that boost the road confidence of the team?
Well, I don't know why, but we seem to always play well on the road. We've had, we had a great game down at St. Vincent. I'm trying to think of some others earlier in the year, but we got a good win at W&J. Obviously went down and beat Geneva. I don't think our guys worry about going on the road. And I think, you say, do they play well on the road? Well, I think you got to be a pretty good team to play well on the road. So, I think we've got a pretty good team now, and we're going over to Grove City pretty confident.
Now, in a few moments, we're going to have David Richards coming in on the show. He's really shown how he can free the jump shooters, and, the Titans pretty much a jump shooting team. He's been able to get them free by collapsing the defenses. How much has his dribble penetration affected team strategy and coaching strategy?
David does a great job. He's had a really nice career for us. Did a great job his first 2 years, filling in when we needed him behind Markey DeMonico and Greg Rossitelli, and he's really played really solid basketball since the beginning of December. And to have a senior point guard is always a benefit. And David's improved his shooting. He's just good enough to keep the defense honest that they've got to guard him, and then he is very quick off the move with the basketball to get to the hole. So he certainly creates a lot of problems, and not so much on the defensive end, or I'm sorry, not as so much on the offensive end, but he starts everything on the defensive end for us with his pressure. So he's a huge part of what we do, and probably doesn't get the recognition that Ryan Murray and Bobby Glass and Steven get, because they're always the leading scorers and grab the most rebounds, and they grab the headlines. But without David doing what he's doing, we certainly wouldn't be where we are right now.
All right, Coach. Well, thanks for working a little bit of overtime for us and being on the show today.
Oh, no problem.
David Richards, when we come back, you're watching Coach's Corner on the Westminster Cable Network.
Ready to get your broadcasting career off and rolling? Then it's time to explore your options by being a part of Titan Radio at Westminster College.
We try to run the radio station as closely as what might be found in the real world.
There's student anchors, student reporters, student producers.
It's really hands-on, and you learn a lot your first year.
From keeping the community informed,
I'm Pamela Marlowe with the Titan Radio News Update,
to keeping the community entertained.
We're moving 5, going out on tour again.
You'll get all the radio experience you could ask for, and more, only at Westminster College.
If we can't beat the competition's price, we'll just give you the car.
But a vehicle is more than price.
A whole lot more.
Gio Crivelli consistently invests in manpower, training, and equipment to deliver car buyers peace of mind.
From our state-of-the-art repair and service garage to our award-winning auto body repair center, Gio Crivelli is prepared to earn your trust.
Gas, stingy, and pallor to rugged Silverado, Gio Crivelli Chevrolet, Route 18, Newcastle.
And remember, if we can't beat the competition's price, we'll just give you the car.
And welcome back to segment 2 of our Coach's Corner show. I'm Andy Bortz, starting off with the men's team this time for basketball. And joining me right now in the hot seat is a guy who has overdrive when he's on the court. He's that fast. It's David Richards, the senior guard. David, thanks for being on the show.
You're welcome.
We're at the point of the season, I guess, a lot of people like to call it crunch time. 1 month left in the season, playoffs starting to come into the picture. You guys are definitely by far in hunt for the PAC title and maybe even setting your sights a little higher. How critical are these next games for you guys?
Well, these are some pretty big games coming up. We got Grove City tonight. We have Thomas More Saturday and W&J next Wednesday, who are all pretty close in the pack right now. So we want to make sure that we have some type of tiebreaker with each team. So when it comes down to the end of the season, no team has an advantage over us.
Now, you mentioned Grove City tonight. We mentioned earlier that the game was postponed due to the bad weather yesterday. But does that impact the rhythm of the team when you have to all of a sudden readjust for a delayed game, much less adjust for the game on the night it's supposed to be played?
Well, everyone's anxious to play, but it does give us an extra day to prepare for Grove City because they're a tough team to prepare for. They run their offensive sets really well, so in the end it could actually help us out.
And then you're getting ready to go on a big road trip against Thomas More. Talk about the impact of what this kind of rivalry game is going to do for you guys when you get ready to take that 6.5-hour drive all the way down to Kentucky.
Well, we just like to kind of get on like a little roll right now because we're, it's the second half of the pack, and obviously Thomas More right now has a slight advantage in the standings right now at 6-2. So we just want to get some wins right now and try to get back at the top of the pack.
Now you're finally getting a chance to show what you can do on the court this season in your senior year. What do you feel has been the biggest difference for you in your game as you've been at it for 4 years now with the Titans?
Oh, I feel like my shooting has gone up a lot. I wasn't that good of a shooter in my freshman, sophomore season, but I feel like I got a lot better, and teams are starting to concentrate more on my shooting, so I can create shots for my other teammates right now.
We talked about that earlier with Coach Ondeko, you being able to create shots. Is that one of those things that you kind of have to work at for a while, or does it just come naturally to you, being able to penetrate that far inside the defense?
Well, I like creating shots for my teammates. They're great shooters. I like getting them the ball, and they can score at any point in time in the game, so it just comes natural for me,
As a team, you guys have really turned heads on the road. I mean, you beat Washington and Jefferson, and that was a huge game, as we talked about with Coach Ondeko, because, like we said, W&J was set to win it all, and they were predicted to win it all in the PAC preseason poll. Do you feel that this game was the most pivotal, not just for your season, but for the conference success?
That was a big game. It showed us that we could win on the road against a really good team in our conference, and it kind of gave us some momentum going into the PAC games.
What do you think was the big difference in that game, per se, when you guys were all of a sudden going at it with those guys, and all of a sudden you guys are in the lead? What were your emotions, and what do you think was the big difference between that game and the games past?
We knew that to win that game, we'd have to rebound and play good defense because they have two of probably the best big guys in the conference, and they dominate the rebounding advantage every game. So if we could concentrate on rebounding and defense, we could probably win that game.
I'm talking about W&J being the pivotal point. It was a slow start for the Titans this year. It started out 0-11, and all of a sudden now everybody's reading that this team started 0-11 and they're in PAC playoff contention. It's been fun to watch you guys win these PAC games, but I need to ask, what changed from those first 11 games to this recent stretch where you guys seem like you've started to find something in the offense and defense?
Well, to start the season off, we were a young team, and we had a lot of injuries at the beginning of the season, so we never got that chance to practice as a team. Once we started practicing, playing games, things started clicking, and now you can see that more on the court.
Does it ever get frustrating when you're starting a season and then all of a sudden, you're just thinking to yourself, what do we have to do to win?
Yeah, it does get it was a lot frustrating at the beginning of the season because we were in a lot of games, a lot of close games, and we were playing really good teams. We just, we couldn't make the good decisions to pull out victories. But I feel now we're clicking as a team, and we're going to pull out some of these close victories at the end of the season.
You're very quick on the court. You run a lot of the fast breaks for those guys, and it seems like you get more opportunities at the basket, and it lets the shooters get a chance to free up as well. Do you like being more of a passer than a scorer, and does that affect your strategy when you step onto the court for the game?
I like being more of a passer. I like getting the guys the ball. We got great shooters on the wings. Murray, Glass, Max, they're really good shooters. So if I get them the ball, I feel like we have a better chance of winning. But then, if teams are going to start concentrating more on them, I have to step up and score a little bit too.
Yeah, have you ever taken a chance to look at yourself and be like, wow, I'm so close to the basket, I'm just going to go ahead and score? Is that one of those things where you have to be disciplined not to take every shot when you're so close to the bucket?
Oh, it all depends on, what defense they're playing, if they got a big guy there or someone spotting up for an open three. So it kind of all depends on the situation of the game.
Now let's talk about some of the past years and talk about some of the seniors you've gotten a chance to play with. Obviously, you got a chance to play with Craig Hannon. What were you able to take away from guys like Craig Hannon who were here?
Well, Craig, he was a great player. He was a great leader, too, He always told me, no matter what, just go out, have fun. It's your last season this year. Try to do as much as you can, and, hopefully you guys win the pack. So he provided great leadership throughout these years for me.
We asked Coach Ondeko a little bit ago about tonight's game for Grove City possibly being a rivalry game and if it changes the emotion of how the players will play on the court. Does that have any effect on you by the words rivalry game being associated with this contest tonight?
Well, I don't know if it's so much of a rivalry, but we really, they beat us in overtime at our home court, so we really want to get after them and get that win back.
You guys, after the Grove City game, you're going to be taking off for Thomas More. Big game down there, too. Talk about the impact of traveling on the team. Does it really affect the energy level and concentration for any team, and how do you deal with it?
I don't really think it affects our energy level. Going in every game, we're pretty, excited to play every game. This is my last season, so I want to get every advantage out of it possible. But, our team is really, they have a lot of energy for every game. We're excited about playing for every game, so I don't think the traveling does anything for us.
Now, what do you think it's going to take for you guys to stay where you are and even pull away in the conference standings as the season winds down here?
I think it's all come down to how good we play on defense. All the teams in the pack, they all pretty much are all very good offensive teams. So if we clamp down on defense and hold teams under their averages, I think we can rise up in the pack.
Now, Coach Ondeko and Coach Kerr seem to like consistency, and they like seeing you score points in the game along with being able to pass the ball. How long does it take during a basketball season to be able to make those no-look passes that we've seen you make so frequently and get the chemistry with your teammates so that they can find you or you can find them?
Well, it just comes to the course of the season. Playing with guys, you get a feel where they're going to be out in the court. And I played with Murray for 3 years, Spinner for about 2, Steve Big for 3 years, so I pretty much know where they're going to be out in the court, so that helps out a lot.
And all those guys, great players, too.
Yeah.
And one final question for you. What's in the future for David Richards after he graduates?
Well, hopefully we win this PAC championship, but I graduate in May, and then plan on going to grad school in next fall for my MBA, but I'm not sure where at yet.
All right, David. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, and we wish you best of luck tonight against Grove City, and we wish you best of luck for the weekend at Thomas More.
Thank you.
And stick around. We have more Coach's Corner coming up next. Amy Dolsack from the women's team coming up. Stick around. You're watching Coach's Corner on the Westminster Cable Network.
Just like the pros at ESPN? If so, the Broadcast Communications Department at Westminster College is where you need to be. At Westminster, you learn what it takes to be live out in the field. Westminster lets you learn all aspects, from behind the scenes in the truck, directing and running instant replay, to filming the action with a camera or announcing play-by-play. So if you want hands-on, live experience, check out the Broadcast Communications major at Westminster College. For more information, visit us online at titanradio.net.
So you're a huge Western Pennsylvania football fan? Then ncnewsonline.com is for you. Crunch is an award-winning internet site of the Newcastle News devoted to area high school football, where you'll get a daily fix of schedules, scores, rosters, highlights, opinion, and player profiles, plus video and photo galleries. Online at ncnewsonline.com. It's football coverage as it happens, designed for you, the dedicated fan. Crunch online at ncnewsonline.com.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Coach's Corner, our final segment today. And joining me now in the hot seat for the women's team is the person who I like to call the playmaker on the team. It's Amy Dolsack. How are you doing, Amy?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Let's talk about your season so far. You've consistently been able to set higher marks for yourself, not just in points, but in rebounding in every game for the Lady Titans. What's been the big difference for you personally between the past seasons and this season in particular?
I feel like this season I'm more confident in myself when I go out on the court.
Okay, we've seen you do it all, too. We've seen you make the big shots when they need to be made. We've seen you take shots inside. We've seen you take shots from the outside. Offensively, which of those shots in your repertoire has got to be your favorite, and do you even have a favorite shot?
Well, I would say that my favorite shot is the three-point shot. I feel comfortable shooting that, and I've shot that since I was a young child, so that's...
It's really shown in the scoring, too, that the three-point percent is high for you. And I have to ask, when you're out there and you're shooting that shot, do you have to go through a mental checklist? Because I asked Gina Brunetti this question last week, and we were talking to her about what she has to do when she goes for the three-point shot. She says she's a better spot-up shooter. Are you one of those that needs time to shoot the shot, or are you more comfortable just taking it in rhythm?
I think it's easier for me to just take it in rhythm because, then you don't have to think about it. When you have to think about it, I think that it's harder to shoot that.
Gina said the exact same thing. She was telling me about how it was a lot more of a process than just a thought process. Obviously, also, it's been a season of ups and downs for you guys. You had a recent stretch of games that were close, and there were just some circumstances that prevented you guys from getting the win, and they didn't go in the favor of you guys. Is there ever a mark of frustration for you guys when you're so close, but there's just that one little play or one circumstance that prevents the win from occurring?
Oh, yeah. It is very frustrating to lose by a close amount of points like that. But you just have to put it in the back of your mind and move on and focus on the next game.
How do you keep the effort up, and how do you keep the morale up of all your teammates whenever they're all going through the same thing, obviously? They have that syndrome in them where they're thinking, what are we going to have to do to win one of these? How do you keep the morale boosted for them?
You have to stay positive. I mean, you can't get down on yourself. By staying positive, I think that it helps us out.
Now, despite that string of bad luck, you guys definitely still in contention for that home pack playoff seed in the conference. Looked like last time we checked it was a 5-way tie, and in that conference anything can happen. What do you feel is the key to getting the Lady Titans back into contention for a home playoff berth?
Well, we have to focus during the game, the whole game. I think that our communication needs to be better. We need to be on the same page, and we need to box out and get the rebounds.
Let's talk about the game against St. Vincent. You had a healthy lead going into the locker room, and we've seen you not put up as many points as you have in the past, but you're still making the big shots. What do you think you can do differently in a game like that coming down the stretch here if you're ever called on to make the big shot? Is there anything that you can do, or do you just have to go out and make the effort every time?
Well, I just think you have to go out and make the effort. I mean, if those situations arise where you need a big shot, I mean, Coach Scott will come up with a play that we'll get somebody open and we'll get the points that we need.
Talk about Coach Scott and Coach Miller, because I've asked all the other teammates also about how well they influence the play of the game and how their experience has helped you guys out. What do they do best that really gets you guys going and helps you guys score offensively?
Well, at practice, we run over our plays and they show us ways that we can get open or what we need to do to find the open person, or for tonight's game we'll have to get the ball inside before our outside game will be open. So they just show us at practice. And
oh, okay. I've also asked a few of your teammates about playing with seniors that had graduated past, talking about Emily Ackerman, Desiree Sterling. Can you put into words how experience with players like that have helped you grow as a player?
Yeah, I remember playing with Emily Ackerman, and she was a very hard worker, and I took that from her. I really remember at practice and even outside of practice, her hard work really, you really take that in, and it makes you want to work hard for them because they work so hard just to continue the tradition of.
This is probably my favorite question, Amy, about playing with your sister on the team. It seems like she's already found her role just as a freshman. What's it feel like when you're on the court with your sister?
Well, it feels great. I mean, I love playing with my sister. I feel comfortable when she's out on the court with me, and we know how each other play, and we know each other's strengths, so when we're out there, I feel really confident.
So now be honest, if you and your sister were in the gym and you brought up the idea to play a game of horse, who would win?
Well, I would hope that I would win, but I bet it would be a close game.
Looks like, yeah, with the way you two perform on the court, it would be very close. We've seen you take a lot more shots this year. Definitely, being a starter, getting a ton of minutes, and you've really capitalized and you've been able to show what you can do on the court. How much do you credit the coaching staff for allowing you the chance to be able to step up and execute so well?
Well, I credit them a ton. I mean, I wouldn't be out there if they didn't have the confidence in me to go out there, so I'm very grateful for that opportunity to be out on the court.
Now, Amy, this is the second time this season that you ladies have had a game postponed because of the bad weather. Does that ever impact the rhythm of the team in your eyes when you are so psyched up to play a big game and then all of a sudden you have to wait another day for it?
Well, yeah, it does. I mean, we were really excited to play yesterday, and but sometimes, I think that it may be better sometimes because you get an extra day to prepare for the game. So, in a way, it's good, I think.
And then after the Grove City game, you've got a big game coming up against Thomas More. Obviously, this is a huge test for you ladies, and it's also on the road, like a 6.5 hour drive or so. How do you ladies keep the energy up on the court when you have to travel so far for a game like this?
Well, we travel the night before, so we do get a chance to rest. But when the next day comes around, when you're about to play, you have to just forget about the long drive and focus on the game.
Now, what do you feel it's going to take for you ladies to be able to remain in contention throughout this conference? Because it seems like, once again, it's been a conference that's been close, and all the teams seem like they're performing at an equal level. Do you have to do something in particular to keep the edge over these other teams?
Well, I think it has to do with hustle, the hustle plays. We have to show that we want it more than the other teams, and I think that if we do that, then we should be right up where we need to be.
Absolutely. Well, Amy, thank you so much for being on the show, and we wish you the best of luck tonight in your game against Grove City and this weekend against Thomas More.
Thanks.
And we'll be back to wrap it up here on Coach's Corner. You're watching the Westminster Cable Network. Don't go away.
How would you like to sit in a college classroom where you know everyone's name?
Oh, hey, how's it going?
At Westminster College, our students aren't just another face in a lecture hall of 200. They're people, individuals with a smile and a story eager to know you.
So the other day I was sitting around...
Learn the skills you need while having a close relationship with your teachers and classmates at Westminster. So if you too want to be known by name, check out Westminster on the web at westminster.edu.
Welcome back. Wrapping it up here on Coach's Corner. I'm Andy Bortz, and don't forget tonight's games against Grove City for the men and the women can be heard on Titan Radio Digital 88.9 FM and also online at titanradio.net. And then the big games down in Thomas More can also be heard on Titan Radio and titanradio.net. We want to thank Coach Ondeko, David Richards, and Amy Dolsack for being on the show. I'm Andy Bortz. Have a great evening. Good night.